A very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. In yesterday's video, I actually meant to point out something also very interesting. This was the visible satellite image that I showed you at the very beginning of the video yesterday, but what I failed to mention was the wildfire smoke that was actually entrained within the multiple systems that were spiraling around the North Atlantic, and it has been creating quite interesting skies across both the UK and indeed Ireland in the last day or so here. So, I made mention of the four circulations that you can see on this image here, but I did not mention, and I was kicking myself afterwards. This here is the wildfire smoke that has been getting entrained across the Atlantic and entrained within these circulations, so becoming entangled within the spiraling nature of these low pressure systems, and that entrainment of dusty, smoky air got drawn into the circulation of Storm Agnes yesterday. And even up here in the north of Scotland, we did see some interesting sunrises in the last couple of days, and that of course is the smoke from the Canadian wildfires. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Some rather interesting stuff with regards to that, and I'll come out of this just now. And yeah, some very interesting things going on generally speaking here. This is an interesting little video captured by our good friend Shrine Bruin, based in Dublin, Ireland. And this was his video he captured of Storm Agnes in this area of the country here. So some people are saying, are we getting to the stage now where a 10-mile-per-hour wind is causing the Met Office to name storms? This gives you a little bit of a better handle, even though it might not have been particularly windy or stormy or rainy wherever you were. This was the scene on the Irish Sea coast of Ireland yesterday, and you can see here some pretty interesting stuff and a great capture there by Shrine here. So, as always, I hope he doesn't mind me sharing that, but I thought I would show you that in today's video here. So here is some of the details with regards to the strongest gusts, heaviest rainfall, etc. from Storm Agnes. Capel was the windiest spot in terms of relatively low levels, 84 miles per hour. Aberdaron 68, Shap 66. So it wasn't a blockbuster of a storm by any stretch, but it certainly did produce severe gale force winds in exposure. So it was really a coastal event. Even my dad was asking how strong are the winds going to actually be, and I said to him, well, I think it's going to be more of a rainmaker, I think, for inland parts, and it's really more primarily the coast. Now, even up here to the north of Inverness, we didn't really get much in the way of wind. Driving down the very exposed area, I'm sure some of you will be well familiar with this, the area stretching between just south of Newtonmore and Dalwhinnie on the A9. It's a particularly open spot, and a double deck trailer I did have on my back last night going down the Glasgow and back up. That was the only time really I felt there was some pretty gusty winds coming in from the side. So a kind of stiff westerly wind, heavy rainfall, pretty bleak conditions. But to be honest with you, Drumoctor Pass can be a pretty bleak place in anywhere, any time of the year. Never mind a storm, it can be pretty nasty. Heaviest rainfall totals according to the Environment Agency here and Met Office, Honister Pass, no surprise here, 52.2 millimetres of rain within, I believe, the 24-hour period here. So that was the highlights of Storm Agnes. As I mentioned, some of the dynamics yesterday, you can see here in this loop from the Met Office showing the south side skipping over to the north side. You notice here the split in the jet stream here, so you can see where Agnes was riding that southern flank. Then the jet really kind of split apart as the circulation then moved from south to north side of the jet here. The jet actually splits apart, and you've got that slowing down of winds that then forced the rapid deepening the strong divergence aloft, and we had a very impressive system. This system was not noteworthy in terms of Northern Ireland Republic, and indeed the rest of the UK mainland here. It wasn't a particularly notable storm, but certainly when you've got that Sapporo Kaiser structure, and you've got, of course, the fractured cold front, warmer wrapping around the centre, the possible development of sting jet. Always very fascinating meteorology. That, to me, is the most notable part of Storm Agnes. It will not be remembered particularly for particularly strong winds or exceptional rainfall, as you can see here. Storm Elias has caused more heartache, more misery to parts of Greece. This was the scene, I believe, today in the very same place that received devastating floods from Storm Daniel some 20 days ago here. So more heartache, another event of in excess of 300 millimeters of rain falling within a 24-hour period. And yeah, it wasn't so much a wind maker, but it was a rainmaker, as you can see here. And the village or town of Volos has been hard hit yet again by heavy rainfall, and unfortunately, it's been a devastating September for this region of the world. No question about that here. So where are we sitting with regards to the overall pattern? So the remnants of Storm Agnes is here to the northwest of the British Isles. We have got a system that is going to be starting to make inroads. We've got still more areas of low pressure, by the way, to speak about. We're not out of the woods with regards to low pressure, more rain, more spells of gusty winds. It looks as if that kind of delay of higher pressure, potentially induced by that Manjulian oscillation becoming more active through the central and eastern portion of the Pacific Ocean. We're not seeing that downstream influence of higher pressure building west particularly quickly. So it looks as if, in a nutshell, we're delaying the return of more settled conditions to the UK and Ireland as we step into the month of October. This is the latest run of the GFS operational, and you can see here that as we go into the day on Saturday, we've got a little bit of a reprieve, very similar to the end of last week, beginning of last weekend. Higher pressure, clearer skies, colder conditions, generally speaking, and then we'll see another system moving in off the Atlantic from a southwesterly direction, so it's not a cold direction, and more rainfall and an increase in winds. Now, as I continue to play through this loop, this is us into the month of October. You can see here little brief teasers of higher pressure, but as you can see here, low pressure is never far away. We've got more rain to speak about in this overall pattern. And as we push towards Wednesday of next week here, looks as if we are trying to see a little bit more of a firmer spell of higher pressure. Look at that area of low pressure off to the west of the UK and Ireland here. That indicates warmer conditions here, and if we look at the 850s for the exact same time frame, you can see here that there is warmer air that wants to try and move up into the British Isles here. Doesn't quite make it in this latest run in the GFS, but it certainly is interesting how this mild conditions are going to continue. We're going to be right on the cusp of this being potentially the warmest September on record for the British Isles. I did see a tweet by London and South East Weather saying that it looks as if this September could be warmer than any month this year so far, which is pretty remarkable stuff actually for September to outdo the remarkable June, July, and August, the hottest time of the year. For September to beat that, especially in the London area, is pretty outstanding stuff here. So you can see here as I play through, we've got some surges of unusually warmer, the isotherm at 15 Celsius at 5,000 feet above the southeast of England is pretty remarkable stuff actually here. So we could see the potential of some very, very warm conditions towards the end of week 1 of October here. So we'll watch this space as we go forward here. Certainly interesting times to come. Before we look at a little bit of long-term stuff, you can see here, this is an interesting tweet here by Dan Hawley. Vertically integrated smoke. This is a measurement of the wildfire smoke coming off Canada, and you can see here crossing over the Atlantic, and then we've got the circulation here to the northwest of the British Isles and Ireland that is then pulling this wildfire smoke, as shown by the visible satellite, over Ireland and over the British Isles here. So I thought I would also want to show you this with regards to the wildfire smoke and a better visual overall of what's going on here. Okay, so looking at a little bit of longer term, this is a slightly older version of the CFSV2 500 millibar geopotential heights. Unfortunately, the model is currently updating, so I can't show you the latest run, but you can see here, upcoming 7-day period here, we've got higher pressure over the western side of the continent here, but we've also got lower pressure out over the Atlantic, and it means that we've got a bit of a kind of northwest to southeast divide over the next 7 days. Wettest, coolest across the northwest, warmer, drier across the southeast, as you can see here, and that's quite a prominent area of high pressure over the mainland. But you can see here into week 2, so this is the period between the 4th and the 11th of October. You can see here that higher pressure, a little bit weaker, but also further north here, encompassing more of the UK and Ireland. And that is potentially a direct response to the Mann-Julian oscillation becoming a little bit more active over the central and eastern portion of the Pacific Ocean, then forces the high over Europe to back westwards here. But, you know, as shown in the latest run of the GFS here, the overview chart, lower pressure still having an influence on our weather here. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how this pans out with regards to, I've said now for nearly a week, the potential of higher pressure trying to build westwards over mainland Europe and essentially shutting down the Atlantic. I do expect that to happen, folks, as we move into the month of October here. But you can see here that even as we play through the loop, even with higher pressure in the means, you can see here that northwest to southeast difference in terms of rainfall anomaly here. So wettest across the northwest, driest the further south. Really the bulk of England and Wales. Actually, Wales is actually drier than average according to this. Into week 2, you can see here, drier than average across the bulk of England and Wales, wetter than average across the northwest. And if we look at the temperature anomaly, probably no real surprise, we're talking warmer than average here. Look at week 1, look at Europe, incredible warmth here. And in the week 2, you can see here that there is a general overall warmer than average theme. And of course, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies compared to average. I would expect the remainder of autumn to be largely on the warmer than average side here. So of course, coming up this weekend, we are going to look at the massive spike in global temperature anomaly. We will look at that in a bit more detail. We'll look at the extremes taking place around the world. We'll look at the flood events, the drought situation, the El Nino, the Mann-Julian oscillation, and other factors here. And coming up next week, I may possibly have another winter update because we do have the strengthening of the positive IOD. We'll look at the El Nino situation here, what goes into, whether it be a warmer than average or a, colder than average winter overall. Positioning of that warm pool over the Pacific Ocean can hold quite a lot of significance. We'll look at the solar cycle, we'll look at Arctic sea ice. So plenty of things coming up next week with regards to winter. And of course, the global weather report will look at the global overview this upcoming Sunday. But I will be back for more European stuff tomorrow. And then, as always, I'll take Saturday off. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, as always. And also drop a comment in the section below. Let me know what your thoughts are with regards to the October pattern. Coming up on marfoganweather.com, I will have the October forecast and also a look back at the month of September. It has been an extreme month for weather across many parts of the world, of course. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. See you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.